Okay, so just hypothetically, if I were to tell you that this video was supposed to be recorded like 3 weeks ago, but I kinda just lost myself in Genshin Impact for the past 14 days or something, would you believe me? And most importantly, would you accept me? Would you forgive me? Maybe I am in the dark place. However, today's video is not about Genshin Impact. It's about Alan Wake 2, which is easily one of the most unique video games I've ever played, spawning viral dances, legendary Game Awards performance, creating a whole new cinematic universe, intricate story with stellar performances, very clever use of FMV stuff, and yet the game barely sold anything in the year since its release? How? And you know, this video is not going to be aimed to raise awareness for Alan Wake 2 or anything like that, because given the virality of this game, it shouldn't feel necessary, but looking at sales and stuff, it does. So let's go ahead and dive back into this game a year since its release and see what it's all about and if it's as good as I remember it to be. It is.
A page full of text on one side. Not a printout. Written with a typewriter. Old school. Lines scratched out and edits added with a pen.
Like a manuscript. Page of a story. The killer left a message.
It's for us. The text is about us. The victim was one of their own. FBI Special Agent Robert Nightingale. And then there was the page they found. The first step down into terrifying depths.
Reading the words. These words felt like a message.
Felt like a message.
Someone knew they were here, someone playing a game with them. An invitation.
Also, if you notice my tablet here, do not even say anything about it. This video is probably going to be long, and I can't afford to pull all this stuff out of my head like I did for my previous videos. So this is just going to be by my side, and I'm going to be relying on it. That way, it will be easier for me and less time for you. Okay, you might be thinking, well, if we're talking about Alan Wake 2, then what about Alan Wake 1? What happened to that? Well, first off, I don't really like Alan Wake 1, so that's why I'm personally skipping it. But if you're wondering, do you even need Alan Wake 1 to understand Alan Wake 2? I'd say you do. For some people that's unfortunate, for some people that's not unfortunate. However, you can attempt to understand Alan Wake 2 without playing the first game, mainly thanks to our new protagonist, Saga Anderson. She doesn't know anything about this universe. She doesn't know anything about what happened in 2010, which is when Alan Wake 1 both took place and came out at the same time. So you can attempt to jump into this game without playing the first one, but I just think that you shouldn't. Even if Alan Wake 1 is not my favorite video game of all time, far from it actually, I still feel like you do need to play it or watch it or experience it in some way to make the story of the second game hit just right. Some people also mention that you need to play Max Payne, at least Max Payne 1 and 2, to also get the feel for certain aspects of Alan Wake's 2 story, but I personally cannot attest to that. I haven't played Max Payne 1 and 2, and I didn't encounter any issues with that while playing Alan Wake 2. So with homework out of the way, let's finally dive into Alan Wake 2. I'm gonna be yapping so much about this game because I like it a lot, and I'm just gonna tell you exactly why.
Where are you?
How to escape. In danger. The dark presence.
Danger. Thanks. Got it.
Okay, so we're gonna start off with the game's less innovative part, which is its gameplay. The game is divided into 2 campaigns. Saga Anderson, who is assigned to investigate the Bright Falls case, and Alan Wake, who is a writer.
I'm a writer.
And main protagonist of both Alan Wake 1 and Alan Wake 2. The gameplay for both of them is very much like Resident Evil 2 Remake, if you've played that game, but with open world, much more story focused, and without the Sherry and Ada scenarios in their campaigns respectively. Everything else is basically the same. Limited ammo, limited heals, inventory management that gets easier as you acquire pouches, lots of backtracking, all that jazz. So in other words, conserving ammo, healing when the timing is right, is gonna be your key to surviving this very, very convoluted storyline. Okay, but in order to fully talk about gameplay, we need to look at Saga's and Alan's respective campaigns individually and in more detail to understand how this game differentiates from Resident Evil 2 Remake and how it differentiates from itself. For Saga, the game is divided into 3 locations: Bright Falls, Cauldron Lake, and Waterloo, and you are free to explore them whenever you want. The only problem is that when you first arrive at these locations, huge chunks of them will be locked for plot reasons, so it's up to you to choose whether you want to explore the entire area in one go, after you're done with like your story stuff, or in 2 laps, after the quest has been done. And while you're out and about, you can find a variety of things. Lunchboxes that contain manuscript pages that you use to upgrade your gear, cold stashes that require a little bit of your brain power to open, but provide you with ammunition and other very helpful resources, manuscript pages that seem to describe everything that happened, happens, and will happen in a story, both on and off screen, so if you're a big story nerd, you need to look out for those. And nursery rhymes that require some reading comprehension and reward you with charms that can make your playthrough a lot easier, trust me. Alan, however, is stuck somewhere called the Dark Place, and his activities are basically non-existent compared to Saga's.
For the past 13 years, you've been trapped in a nightmare dimension called the Dark Place. It's like New York, but it's not New York. And can be reached from the bottom of Cauldron Lake, but it's not really under the lake. And after all this time,
So Alan can find words of power that strengthen certain attributes of his, depending on which word you find, and he can find hidden resource boxes. That's pretty much it. But the rest of the gameplay is basically the same. You are given a location that you need to explore, gather resources, fight some enemies, solve some puzzles, and progress the story. However, where things get a little bit interesting and where Alan Wake adds upon Resident Evil 2 is the gimmick that each of our characters possesses. And if you're not sure what I'm talking about the Mind Place and the Writer's Room. Saga has her Mind Place, where she can piece together evidence you found in the real world, profile people and suspects in the case, and make certain conclusions that progress the story, so don't neglect the board. If you're stuck and you're not sure where to go, or the game is not telling you where to go, it's highly likely you forgot to do something on the evidence board, so don't ignore it. You can also listen to some music, watch videos you found, read manuscript pages, and upgrade your gear. And that's about it. Alan's Writer's Room works slightly differently. He can also listen to music, watch videos, and upgrade his abilities, but instead of an evidence board, he has the plot board, where you can apply certain storylines to the locations you're in order to change the surrounding area and allow you to move further with the narrative. And it looks pretty cool.
The scene here had changed.
I think that both mechanics are implemented very well and give a lot of food for thought when it comes to understanding the plot of Alan Wake 2 and the universe of Alan Wake in general. I would especially highlight Saga's Mind Place for that, but we will get to that a little bit later. Okay, so exploring and collecting stuff and sitting in your mind palaces and writers' rooms sounds fun, but it's not as easy as you think, because along the story, there are a bunch of baddies, or enemies, or nemesis, however you want to call them, that are being thrown at our lead characters to stop them from progressing the story.
fuck! A cultist. A monster. Like Nightingale.
Okay, so the combat is basically the same as Resident Evil 2 Remake. You just need to stand still for the reticle not to sway so much. You need to aim for the head in order to not waste as many bullets. And also you need to know when you dodge. That's something that is not in Resident Evil 2, but it is in Resident Evil 3, so you know, don't come for me for this. However, the main difference of Alan Wake's 2 combat loop from Resident Evil 2 is that you essentially need 2 resources to deal with your enemies. So Taken, the enemy that you will be facing, always have those darkness shields that surround them that make them invulnerable to bullets. So pumping your enemies with lead is not the answer. At least it's not your first answer. Okay, so before you flaunt your second amendment in front of the enemy, you need to take down their darkness shield, like I've said. And it's made easy with the help of the flashlight, the flare, the flashbang, other explosives, and so on. But you get what I mean. Essentially, to hurt the enemies, to kill them, you need to waste 2 resources. 1 light source, be it a flashlight battery or a flashbang, and bullets to kill the enemy. It is also useful to keep in mind that the darkness shield regenerates if you don't pay any attention to the enemy, so whenever you destroy it, you need to act quick. So once the darkness shield is destroyed, you can go to town on the enemy using all the various kinds of weapons that also differentiate depending on which character you're playing. I won't get into too much detail about the weapons that you're gonna be getting, but they all feel very, very, very satisfying to use, both the sound design and animation-wise.
My eyes.
However, what's not satisfying about the combat loop is the enemy variety. And what I mean is lack thereof. With Saga, that's probably not going to be an issue for her. She has a bunch of enemies to fight against. Well, by a bunch of enemies, I mean probably 4. I think off the top of my head I can name 4 enemies. That's pretty much what I remember. And of course I'm not counting boss fights. However, with Alan, he only gets 2 types of enemies, which is a regular Taken that can somehow like teleport or run quickly at you, and a second Taken who can also do that, but he can perform a grab attack on you, and you will need to use a flare to free yourself off of it. So that's it. That's all he has. Poor Alan, man. Okay, so let's recap our combat loop. Flashlight, gun, flashlight, gun, flashlight, gun, flashlight, gun. Got it? Cool. Okay. I know, that was difficult. That was very difficult to remember that, but just remember, flashlight, gun. Not gun flashlight, flashlight gun. Okay, and that's gonna be it for gameplay. I know I haven't really said a lot about it, but at the same time, I never really intended to, because that's not the point of the video I'm making. In this video, I'd much rather focus on other things that make me so hyped and so excited to talk about this game, which we are going to cover next. And one of these things is its visual presentation. Okay, so finally it's time to talk about the visuals, the one thing that I really wanted to talk about this entire video. The graphics themselves are pretty good, even if sometimes you can tell that the game wasn't made with the biggest budget of all time, but that's not the point. That's not what the game excels at. What it does excel at is its use of live action scenes and other visual effects. Most notable ones being Saga and Alan's trips through the overlaps, and Saga's profiling in the mine place. Yes, some of those effects can be a little bit overused, especially the jump scares.
Scratch.
The live action jump scares, but most of the time they add value and enhance the atmosphere that you're trying to immerse yourself in at the moment. And the one thing that I've never understood how Remedy does this well, how they do it this well, is the live action scenes fit seamlessly. Whenever you switch to live action, you don't feel like this is out of place, this shouldn't be here, this is awkward, or something like that, at least for me. Live action scenes feel natural for this title. Whenever they are implemented, it doesn't even, sometimes it doesn't even register in my brain that, oh, we switched to live action. I mean, obviously you notice that, but you know what I mean. It fits really well, and it doesn't feel out of place. And speaking of the live action performances, obviously we legally are not allowed to forget about the Champion of Light performance. Oh, sorry, Herald of Darkness. Basically the same thing. Whenever I first played through that section, I was speechless. It reminded me of Final Fantasy VII Remake's Honeybee Inn scene. If you played it, or if you watched it, you know what I mean. Was it needed? No. Did it provide any narrative value to the story? I don't think so. But was it so random and well performed that now I want more of this stuff from the entire video game industry? Yes. Yes. When you watch this scene, you can see every actor on screen having way too much fun. Sam Lake especially. Man, no one does it like Remedy. Like, honestly, if you want the weirdest but the most unique video game experience, play Remedy games. Any of them. And moving on from live action scenes, the thing that they do with overlaps is also kind of difficult for me to understand because it looks so well. The one where, you know, you're traversing one location, but you are given visions of a different location. And sometimes it feels like, I don't even know how to describe it, but the way that that visual looks, it almost feels like you're entering the location that you see, but you're not. This is just a 2D image being projected on your screen. And I honestly don't know why, but it just feels so cool. And the reason I highlighted Saga's profiling as one of the better visual presentation parts of this game is because it's not particularly interesting or cool that they're doing. They're just showing people, but I feel like it adds so much atmosphere to whatever it is you're doing, well, basically solving the case. I just love it. It looks cool, it feels atmospheric, sometimes it feels dark, sometimes it feels silly, and hearing some of the people you profile speak in sentences that you found on pages, manuscript pages that you pick up, that adds an extra layer of, whoa, what the hell is going on in this game?
How did he end up here?
Up from the lake that's not a lake. It's dark. He was there too. You are not allowed in the lake until he says otherwise.
So yes, let's recap a little bit what I wanted to say with this whole segment. If you take away all of this live action visual stuff with overlaps, profiling, anything of that sort, the game suddenly becomes really, really, really boring. I'm sure that if this game didn't have all these things going for it, it probably wouldn't have been as beloved by people as it is. I'm pretty sure that these things craft a very unique project that cannot be replaced with the in-game engine and stuff like that. And plus, like I said, sometimes when you look at cutscenes, when you look at lip syncing and stuff, you can tell that the game wasn't made with like Hollywood budget, but it's okay. It looks well enough. And mixed in with these live action scenes and other visuals that I've mentioned, it's a very unique experience. And a very nice one at that. Okay, so this next segment of the video, I'm gonna have to separate in two parts, basically. The first part is gonna be a spoiler-free synopsis of the story, I suppose. Well, not really. I'm not gonna try and tell you whatever happens in this game. Just my thoughts on the story. In general, without any particular spoilers and stuff, and the second part is gonna be a bit deeper than that. I'm gonna be talking about specific characters, my thoughts on these characters, specific story events, and stuff like that, so you are warned. I usually put timestamps in the description. I don't know if they show up on the chapter thingy, but if they're not, then just check out the description. There's probably a timestamp for you to skip the spoilers if you don't want them. Okay, so let's start with the spoiler-free section, which is probably going to be a very short section because I can't keep my mouth shut, so I'm bound to spoil something, even if it's by accident. So I'm going to be sticking to the script that I have on my left here in order to not blab anything that you're not supposed to hear just yet. Okay, so the story overall is very, very good. It's complex, it's tricky, it requires you to remember and follow the rules of this universe if you want to make sense of it all. And in my personal experience, I can tell you that if you have questions, they are most likely going to be answered at the end of the game. And the ones that are not answered are probably saved for the future projects. But it is a lot of fun to try and figure out what the hell is going on in this town, thinking you got it, and then the game laughing at you and taking the story in a completely different direction, which kind of throws your theory off for a long time, but then another plot twist happens and you realize that you were right the entire time, only for you to realize that you weren't quite right at... Look, it's just a little bit complicated, okay? That's why I'm telling you that you probably really should play Alan Wake 1 if you haven't, and the Control DLC, and some people say Max Payne as well, but I cannot attest to that. But, I mean, I've played all these games except for Max Payne, and even I still had trouble following the plot of this game. It took me like 2 or 3 playthroughs to realize some things, and some things I still don't understand. So, if you're not getting the story, if you feel like you're lost, it's fine. We're all in the same boat. We are right here with you. The characters that you will be playing and meeting are also very good, and I would even dare say memorable. You never know whether you're looking at a throwaway character or someone who is like going to destroy the world the next time you're not looking at them. So, yeah. That's fun. Alan Wake 2 also features a sort of a new game plus mode called the Final Draft. Play it. You have to play it. Not only does it feature some new pages for Saga to find and some cryptic stuff for Alan that I still haven't been able to decipher, it also features a whole new ending, which expands and develops upon the ending of the original campaign. So if you like the story, if you want to know what happens, what's going on in this universe, you have to play New Game Plus, the Final Draft, whatever you want to call it, just play it. Okay, so now the spoiler-free segment is over. This is your warning. I'm going to go into spoilers now and more detailed thoughts about certain characters, certain stuff, so on and so forth. You've been warned. Click in the timestamp, on the timestamp that I've put. I don't know what I'll name it, probably like end of spoilers or something. That sounds a bit dramatic though, end of spoilers. It's like I'm trying to end all spoilers, but I can't do that. More often than not, I fall victim to spoilers, so I can't end all spoilers. What am I even saying? Okay, so it makes sense to start with Saga, our new protagonist, who is voiced by Melanie Liebert. I hope I'm pronouncing this name correctly. I'm sorry if I'm not. I'm trying my best. I personally feel like she's a great addition to Alan Wake cast. She fits the bill of a Remedy protagonist, and if you want to know what the hell is a Remedy protagonist, in my opinion, a Remedy protagonist is someone who is a bit bland, like someone who doesn't have the most striking personality, but they have their quirks and weird things about them that make them endearing still, even if they don't have the brightest personality ever. And Saga is a perfect example for that. Most of the time, she's just throwing one-liners, around and stuff, but she also has her personal motivations and reasons for the things that she does. And I feel like Saga's mind plays gimmick is actually better than most people think it is. I don't know, I haven't seen people say it's bad, but I just wanted to point out that sometimes when you place clues, well, not sometimes, all the time, every time you place a clue, there's a little blurb that appears, which is basically Saga's internal thoughts on the clue that you've just placed on the board. And actually, there are some times that Saga in these blurbs points out very interesting things that are not mentioned or not focused on in the main plot. So do yourself a favor and read some of the blurbs that Saga leaves. Some of them are very uninformative, like she says, "Oh, that's bad. I can't let this happen." Like, yes, thanks Saga, we get it. But sometimes she draws parallels and coincidences that you may have not noticed, and the story doesn't really focus on them. So, like I said, do yourself a favor and read some of the blurbs that she has. My favorite moment with Saga is the one at the end of the game, where she is thrown into the dark place, if you remember that. I know it's a little bit cheesy, it's a whole, like, you gotta believe in yourself, you don't need to doubt yourself moment, but I like it. I like the way it was executed, and I think that's the only reason I like it as much as I do. Because Saga is very analytical, she's very logical, everything is a case to her. Whatever you encounter, it's a case. And so her being stuck in the dark place, trapped by her own fears and emotions, is just another case. It's a very sneaky contrast, because she is being analytical and logical about her emotions, which are, you know, known to be irrational and unlogical. It's a whole heart versus mind thing. Very clever, very cool, very cute.
No. There has to be a way out. I need a way out. Oh God. None of this is real. I've lost it. I'm not even here. The mind place isn't real. A case about supernatural darkness. I'm having a full-on psychotic break. I dragged Logan away to a tin can in Watery. She's dead because of me. There has to be a way out.
Alan, who is once again voiced by the legendary Matthew Peretta, who has no business looking as good as he does, but he does, and we're all thankful for it. He's having a hard time.
Stealing from me. Stealing my identity. Eliciting me. Replace me. Twisted version of me.
Yeah, Alan is losing his marbles, just a little bit. However, the way it was performed, Mr. Peretta outdone himself. Outdone himself again. Hearing Alan's, like, madman ramblings in the dark place creates this atmosphere of, I don't even know what's the right word. Not fear, but uneasiness. Mostly because you're not even sure if he's losing his marbles for anything. Like, he's doing all these things, but we still don't know if it's possible to get out of the dark place, and how the hell does he do it, and will he do it, and what's gonna happen to him. Like I said, yeah, it's creating a certain atmosphere of uneasiness and uncertainty about his fate in particular. Like, I'm not sure. I wasn't sure until the very end what's gonna happen to Alan. I had a very strong suspicion that he's going to be killed at the end of the game, and he kinda was, but then the final draft happened, and he wasn't. I'm not sure. And speaking of the final draft, I could not tell you what the hell was that whole ending about. I could not tell you what these pictures of light mean. I don't know anything. I'm too stupid to figure it out, and honestly, I like it. I like it that way. Lately, I found myself gravitating towards games with slightly more difficult plots, to understand. I don't even know why. Maybe I just like being stupid. But this game makes me feel dumb, and I absolutely love it. I absolutely love putting out theories in my head, only for them to be so incredibly wrong. But it's fine, I'm having fun. Another character that I want to point out, and that's gonna be probably the last character that I want to point out in the main story, is... that's probably gonna surprise you, but that's Alice. The shift in her character that they did fits so well. I don't even know, she's become much more of a damsel in distress, which she was in the first game, where I barely cared for her. Now, she is distraught, she is traumatized, she is obsessed. There are so many avenues they can take with Alice. Like, for real, they can, honestly, they could even make an entire DLC with her, and I wouldn't be mad. Because she is also an artist, she's a photographer, and the Dark Place can use that, and that means that we can also use that as content for this universe. So there is a lot of character development with Alice that has been done since Alan Wake 1, and she is a much more interesting and memorable character than she was in the first game. And her act of jumping back into Cauldron Lake to help Alan get out of there as soon as she realized he's still stuck there, basically he traded places with her, speaks volumes about her character. Okay, but that's about everything I have to say about this game. It's so good. You thought I was done. That's really cute. But did you really think that I'm just gonna leave the video without arguably one of the most important parts of this game, which is its DLC? As you guessed, there is one last thing that we need to cover, and that's Alan Wake 2's DLC content, which is jam-packed with references, teasers, absolute insanity, and comedy gold. And also, I may or may not have messed up and forgot to talk about a few things that I wanted to in my first recording session, so I'm gonna put them in here. I'm sorry and you're welcome, and I'm welcome and you're sorry. I'll figure it out. Anyways, let's get into it.
And then, bam! Destiny shows up at your door like a mailman with a package you were pretty sure got lost because you ordered it like 6 months ago. But that's okay.
Our first DLC is Night Springs, which is a collection of 3 stories from the perspective of familiar characters that Alan tried to use in the Dark Place. The first story follows the waitress, aka Rose, who is totally the best character in this game, and I'm not hearing anything otherwise. Goodbye.
You're blocking out your traumatic memories.
I'm just kidding. And she is, and I quote from my own notes, madly in love with a certain writer, in parentheses, who is obviously Alan Wake, and is tasked to rescue him from his evil bad boy twin and his army of Twitter haters. That's just diabolical. I love it. The gameplay is much more streamlined. No flashlight needed, you are given a buttload of shotgun ammo, no mind place or writer's room, just Rose, her shotgun, and mountains of fresh meat. Oh, and Alan is there too. Yeah. Do you remember that one gaming community legendary collab that happened between Animal Crossing, New Horizons, and Doom Eternal? You know, because they came out on the same day, and there was that whole fan-made song, Eternal Horizons or whatever. Well, that's Rose's campaign, basically. And not only that, there is so much comedy in this specific story inside the DLC. I promise, I've never laughed in a video game that hard. I don't know why. It's not like it's super intelligent humor. It's not like it's innovative. It's just funny. I don't know. It's just... I don't even know how to explain it. It just is. I'm sorry. You can argue with the wall, you can argue with yourself, but you're not arguing with me. It's just fun.
You're rude, you have no manners, your too cool to care attitude is attractive initially, but drives people away after they realize you're emotionally incapable of letting your walls down to reveal that you are a vulnerable human being just like everybody else. You are trying way too hard with that outfit.
No, stop! I don't like being seen!
And I just want to interject one of the things that I did forget to talk about in my main campaign part is Rose herself, actually. She is so iconic. She is definitely the highlight of the game. I'm not saying that she's the brightest highlight, but she's one of the highlights. One of the bigger ones, for sure. And honestly, her relevance in the story is kind of difficult to pinpoint, but it doesn't even matter. Every time this woman is on screen, it's a joyous occasion. Nobody gets Rose like I get Rose. Me and her, we are connected. And honestly, a massive shout out to Jessica Prolly, who is Rose's voice actress. She did fantastic, amazing, show-stopping, never the same, never been done before. Like, her performance was on point. Not too much, not too little, perfect amount of Rose. Also, for those of you who played Dead by Daylight, first of all, I'm so sorry for you. And second, did you know that there is a Rose cosmetic in Dead by Daylight? And the voice of that cosmetic is Jessica Prolly. She came back to reprise her role as Rose. So, if you want more Rose, play Dead by Daylight? No, that doesn't sound right. No, that sounds so wrong. Don't do it. Don't do it. And with that, we're moving on to the second campaign of the DLC because I have very limited time and I don't really want to postpone this video any longer. So let's get into it. The second campaign has us following Jesse Faden from Control, a different Remedy title. And the entire campaign is very reminiscent of that game's plot, except instead of an invasive alien resonance, you have invasive alien coffee beans? Right. Yeah. Sure. The gameplay is basically the same as the main game. Flashlight, handgun, puzzles, confusing story, checks out. And honestly, I don't want to talk about this campaign too much because I don't really like it. It's not my favorite. But the puzzles were actually very good. There is that one puzzle, if you know, you know. It took me quite a while to figure out because, well, mind your damn business. I'm just kidding. I wasn't good at geometry, okay? I was really bad at geometry at school. Also, since we're talking about voice actors, Courtney Hope is back as Jesse Faden, and I'm so glad that she is still keeping to that role because she is fantastic. She fits this role so well, and I'm not gonna get into too much detail about Jesse, about Miss Courtney Hope, because I am planning to do a Control video somewhere along the way. Oh. So that means that for now, we're just gonna have to keep Jessie shrouded in mystery, as she usually is. The third and final campaign of this DLC allows us to dive back into the world of Quantum Break, I guess? I'm not sure. Quantum Break is one of those games that I haven't really had the chance to fully immerse myself into. I can't seem to find the will to come back to this game. I don't really know why. I've only played it once in my life. And that was it. And that was years ago, too. Should I replay that? Should I try to do that again? Let me know in the comments. And if you think that this DLC is any less psychotic than the other two, you have another thing coming.
Yes. Sean, I'm really happy. Let's talk.
This campaign starts off by completely breaking the fourth wall and showing us the actual Sam Lake having a conversation with the actual actor of Tim Breaker and Jack Joyce, who is Sean Ashmore. Like, it's so meta, it makes my head hurt. Physically.
How meta can you get? He said, looking knowingly at the camera.
Then, you know, stuff happens and you basically just start jumping realities and timelines like it's nobody's business, you know, just the usual stuff. And along the way you experience a few genre shifts, like a 2D pixel shooter and a text adventure mixed with some trademark Alan Wake 2 gameplay. And to be fair with you, gameplay-wise, this is probably the best DLC out of the 3 that I just mentioned. Of course, it depends on your taste, but to me, I feel like this is the most unique one to follow. But the story gets a little bit too convoluted for me. And, you know, I am infamously stupid. If you've seen any of my other videos, you probably know. If you haven't, hello, welcome. I am stupid. I am the resident stupid of this channel. So it was very difficult to follow that storyline for me. But overall, it's a very good campaign. And if I had to make like a top 3 list of this DLC, number 1 has to be Rose's campaign, number 2, Timbreaker campaign, and number 3 is Jesse Faden campaign. I forgot their names, I'm so sorry, so I'm just gonna go by characters. If you played the DLC, let me know in the comments your list, and explain why each campaign is better than the others in your eyes. I'm really curious about that, I'm serious, so, you know, it's right there. Type it. Do it. I know you want to. And if you think we're done, which you probably don't, because if you clicked on this video, you probably know about this game already. But yeah, we're not done, because the maniacs at Remedy dropped another DLC, which is just as long as the first one, if not longer.
Agent Estevez, what's your status?
Breach detected on sublevel 5. Staff should seek shelter immediately.
We have a situation in the lake house. All agents converge on the facility now.
The second DLC sees us taking control of Kieran Estevez, the FBC agent we meet throughout the main story. It tells us about what happened at the Lake House, which is basically FBC headquarters in Bright Falls, before Saga meets Estevez in the main story. This DLC is a lot more complex than the first one. There's a new storyline with new villains, completely new locations, made from scratch, heavily inspired by Control too, new enemy type, and a new weapon. And I want to start with our leading lady, Kieran Estevez. She's okay. I mean, some of her dialogue was a little bit eye-rolling at the start, but her actress, Lord give me strength to pronounce this, Janina Gavankar? Is that how you pronounce that? I probably absolutely butchered that name. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. But what I was trying to say is that the actress is saving most of these lines. Like, yes, the dialogue itself is eye-rolling as hell. I watched Bricky's playthrough of this DLC. If you know, you know. If you know Bricky, I really recommend his channel. He also did all of the Alan Wake stuff. He's hugely into Remedy, and I highly recommend him if you don't know him. And I watched his playthrough of this DLC, and he mentioned that her dialogue was a Life is Strange dialogue. If you know that game, you know exactly what he's talking about, and I know exactly what he's talking about, and I have to agree. Some of her lines were so Life is Strange coded, it's embarrassing.
As soon as I got in that elevator, my bad news detector started going nuts.
Estevez doesn't really have a gimmick like Alan's writer's room or Saga's mind place, so her gameplay is pretty basic Alan Wake 2 stuff. However, another surprise is waiting for Miss Estevez, and it's not the surprise she was hoping for. Kieran gets the new enemy type, the Painted, who are really creepy design-wise and really cool looking, but they were extremely busted on release. Okay, I'm pretty sure they fixed them, and since I got gameplay for this DLC, I didn't have as much trouble with them as I did before, but let me explain to you what the Painted did on release. See, these enemies, they hide in walls, and they come out of the walls sometimes. I don't really know what's the trigger for them to come out of the walls and attack you. And sometimes they would come out of the walls right as you pass them, and you think, oh yeah, that's just to scare you and stuff. But that's not the problem. The problem is, before they even come out, before they even materialize in the world, they grab you. On release, that grab attack dealt 70, I'm not kidding, 70% of your health. On normal. Normal. I kid you not, I died 7 times in a single spot. Just because of that stupid, whatever that was, bug, feature, I don't know. I don't care to know. And one of those times, that bastard didn't even appear. I passed right through him. And to this day, I don't know the trigger for why they come out of the wall and why they grab you. And this grab, by the way, I forgot to mention, I'm so sorry, but this grab could not be dodged. I mean, if you had more than 70% of your health, you're in luck, you will survive, and you will move on. But you have even 1% less. Yes, the funny number, the 69% health. Good night, goodbye. Rest in pieces, rest in piss, rest in power, whatever you want to say. It's over for you. Isu. The story of this DLC is very good. The Mermonts are an interesting duo, and I kinda wish I got to see more of them, to be honest. The live-in painting stuff was also very cool, but the jump scare tactic that they use here is the same one they used in Alan Wake 2 main campaign. So it's not effective anymore. It's completely lost me, but the atmosphere is still intact. Like, yeah, you will get those jump scares and you will feel like, okay, yeah, we've been here like 10 times over already, get it over with. But that's just like 5% of this DLC, even less probably. The rest is pretty cool and very atmospheric. There is also a Control 2 teaser hidden inside this DLC, and obviously I did not understand a single thing, but I loved it. There's been some news circulating around Control 2 and its development and its budget and who's gonna pay for what, but it seems like Control 2 is progressing smoothly and it's gonna be one of the more ambitious Remedy titles, so I'm really excited for this one. I'm really excited for this one. And yeah, that about covers it for DLC, actually. There is one thing I will mention though that I forgot, is that these DLCs are seamlessly integrated into the main story. When it comes to Night Springs DLC, there are certain TVs scattered around the world as Alan, I'm pretty sure, it's only as Alan, that you can activate and play each campaign separately. And when it comes to the second DLC, the Lake House DLC, at one point in Saga's story, you will be offered an opportunity to jump into the DLC, and it will be explained with dialogue, with a small cutscene and stuff like that. So it's all really well integrated. So it's not just, you can access it from the main menu, but you don't have to. So if you're playing the game for the first time and you bought the deluxe version, you have all the DLCs, you can actually experience the full package in one go. You don't even need to play DLCs after the main story, you can just play them during the main story if you so want. I apologize for a little bit of an abrupt cut to this part, but I was kind of interrupted while I was trying to record the last one, so here I am 2 weeks later? Don't ask questions. You? don't want to know. But anyways, this video has been in the making for a month probably now. And today is December 26th, and I am only just recording an outro for this video. How fun. To top this video off, I just want to say that this game is phenomenal. And while it does have its shortcomings, those being mostly in the gameplay department, of it being not particularly innovative with its formula, there's still a lot that this game does right, so much so that it easily outweighs anything negative that I had to say about it. I mean, the story is interesting, the characters are memorable, the gameplay, though not particularly fresh or innovative, as I keep saying for like 4 times already, it's still engaging in its own right, I would say. The DLC is actually worth your money, which is unfortunately a rarity in today's video games, but oh well, what can we do about that? Then the acting's great, the live action stuff, the FMV stuff is great, the new cinematic universe is amazing and mind-blowing. I could go on, and I will. But not today though. This video has gone on long enough. Before I end the video, I did want to do a couple of honorable mentions to specific parts of this game that I didn't feel particularly inclined to include in the main video, but I think this is the perfect place for them. The number 1 honorable mention is obviously the music of this game, recorded by various artists, and specifically the tracks that play between chapters, and obviously, Poets of the Fall / Old Gods of Asgard. Their contribution to this project is immeasurable. And like, I'll tell you a secret. Even my mom, from time to time, really enjoys the Alan Wake 2 original soundtrack, and she's not into games. At all. The second honorable mention that I wanted to give is to the entire voice cast, because I did kind of highlight a few people throughout the video, but overall, everyone really pulled their weight. I didn't really feel thrown off by any one voice performance. Everyone was great and on the same level, honestly. And probably the final honorable mention that I will put in here is the game's accessibility and support, I suppose is the word I'm looking for. The game has been updated a few times ever since its release, with major patches, including the new Game Plus mode that I've been talking about in the main campaign video, and other features that make your playthrough so much easier, like immortality, infinite ammo, which I have actually been using to record some of the parts in the video. These options honestly make the game super accessible for people who are not entirely familiar with video games, and honestly just for those who want to chill out and just not bother with anything. And I can respect that, because I do that sometimes too. This game is so much fun, and I feel like it's the prime example of what games can be when they're done with the complete creative control in the hands of the developers, and not in the hands of the publisher, how it often happens in the video game industry. And honestly, with everything I've told you about this game throughout this video, throughout this very, very long video, with all its positives, with all its negatives, I can fairly confidently say that the title of this video was not clickbait. I genuinely believe that this game, Alan Wake 2, should have been a cultural reset for the video game industry.